And one more time, Horror Guys.
It's us again.
It's us.
Episode 190 this time.
Ooh.
And I'm Kevin.
Pushing 200. I'm Brian.
We're going to talk about horror movies again.
Pushing 200 episodes. I'm not pushing 200.
Not 200 years.
No.
No vampires here.
Although I do remember the original Munsters.
Mm-hmm. So do I.
Actually, they were in reruns at the time. I don't remember the original Munsters.
Yeah, I don't think when they actually aired. We were a bit young.
Well, anyway, this week we have, what do we got?
Martin from 1977. And then we have the remake of Poltergeist, which was done in 2015. There's a new horror comedy, When the Screaming Starts, from 2021. Now, is this just released, though? It's made last year?
Yeah, a lot of these have been finished in 2021, and they're just coming out now.
Yep.
So,
and we also have the new Munsters reboot prequel thing. Sing it.
That's way better than our theme song. All right, and if you are signed up for the weekly newsletter, you're also going to hear about the Mephisto Waltz from 1971.
That was a good one.
And The Thing That Couldn't Die from 1958.
And that wasn't
great. So good.
That wasn't that great. Well, I had completely not heard or seen or anything of that. For being a 1958 horror movie, The Thing That Couldn't Die.
I'm sure it had been Mystery Science 3000 at least once.
Oh, it sure deserves it. It's of that quality.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but so this was a complete, fresh, look at it. And, yeah, I can see why it's not a classic.
Okay, as usual, the show is brought to you by the Horror Guys Guide Books. You can go to horrorguys.com/books to pick up a copy of... How about the Horror Bulletin Monthly?
13th edition is out now. Lucky number 13.
13 months. Yeah, we've been doing this for over a year now. Every issue, yeah. Every review, bonus or otherwise, is in there. Every review from the podcast is in there. Read them, look at the pictures, write on the pages. Throw it up in the air because it's a physical paperback.
On them, aren't you?
You can,
yeah.
And before we get started, next week we're going to be reviewing a bunch of good stuff, including one called Margot, Margaux.
A brand new one that they asked us to review, and they were nice enough to give some giveaways. We have giveaways for y'all.
Send us an email at horrorguys.com. Say, I would like a free movie. And if you're one of the first 5 people to respond, you'll get one.
These are digital Redbox copies?
You go to the Redbox app or redbox.com, plug in the number, and watch it there.
Very easy to watch online.
It's either SD or HD or 4K or whatever they've got. It's good stuff. And it's totally free.
And we haven't seen it yet, so we don't know if it's good either.
We're going to be seeing it right after the podcast.
Yeah, very soon.
All right. So anyway, this week we have The Munsters from 2022, written and directed by none other than Rob Zombie, who is well known for his gory, over-the-top horror movies. Stars, surprisingly, Sherry Moon Zombie.
I see a correlation there, where Sherry is in a lot of his movies.
Jeff Daniel Phillips, Daniel Roebuck, and Cassandra Peterson. 1 hour, 49 minutes, and there is a trailer in the show notes. And spoiler-free, tell us about it.
Well, it's a prequel to the old television series, ending pretty much where the show starts. And it's kind of a strange movie because there's lots of pop culture references appealing to adults, especially older adults, but humor that seems to be geared toward young people. And it's fun horror, not really scary horror. The visuals are excellent, manages to be bright and colorful while being dark and gloomy at the same time. And all in all, a thumbs up from the Horror Guys. But it's probably not going to be appreciated by all.
Yeah.
We'd expect strong mixed reviews.
And I've certainly read them.
From what I've read, it seems like people either love it or hate it. Yeah.
There is very little in between on this one.
It seems that way.
All right, so what really happens in this story? Men enter a Transylvanian crypt with shovels. As Dr. Wolfgang and his assistant Floop open the casket, they find it empty. The walking, talking zombie comes in behind them. Turns out that Zombie was the world's greatest pianist, and Dr. Wolfgang wants his hands. They knock the zombie over the head and take selfies with him. They've been collecting parts from lots of corpses. All right, so a lot of horror movies start out with, a little grave robbing.
Yeah.
Elsewhere in the big castle, The Count wakes up and rises from his coffin. His back is out. I mean, you're 300. These things happen.
Yeah.
And he
When you're
needs
that old.
Igor to fix it. Once you hit 300, everything starts to go. Well, his daughter Lily is out on a date with Mr. Orlok. Orlok is a creepy old Nosferatu, but he's wealthy, so that's okay. Then they go to the Egyptian restaurant, and the service is really slow. Of course it is. The waiter is a mummy. You know how they are dragging their feet.
It was actually a pretty cool restaurant. I'd eat there.
Orlok has pictures of his pet rats, and he's pretty boring at first, but we soon see that he's a disco party animal. Yeah, you can go discoing with Orlok.
Mm-hmm.
Zoya the gypsy gets Lester the werewolf to call the Count. She wants to buy his castle and build a casino there. Of course, the Count is watching old movies on TV, but the show is interrupted with the news that Shecky von Rathbone, a bad comedian, has just died. So has the smartest man in the world. Dr. Wolfgang wants the dead genius's brain, but of course they get Shecky instead because Floop is Floop. It didn't say abnormal, but it's, the same thing.
Same kind of thing, yep, mix up.
As Lily sits at home being lonely, Dr. Wolfgang assembles the body parts into a regular old Frankenstein's monster. I wonder why they didn't just call this guy Frankenstein. They really want Wolfgang instead.
Copyright.
The book is public domain. I mean,
Yeah.
They didn't copy it that much for the movie. Well, anyway, Floop decides to name the creation Herman Munster, like the cheese. We can't name him a monster. No, not monster. Munster, like the cheese. The switch is thrown, the sparks fly, and it's all excessively dramatic. Is it alive? No. Wolfgang breaks down and has a tantrum. Oh, wait, it is alive.
It was just kind of a delayed reaction.
Yeah. The Count and Lily watch the morning show, and Dr. Wolfgang is on there unveiling his creation. Herman walks out into the spotlight, and Lily is immediately smitten. I mean, she got like hearts popping out of her head and stuff. He tells a bad joke, but he can't play the piano at all, and he doesn't seem too bright. Shecky's brain has taken over.
Yeah, Dr. Wolfgang didn't do any checking before this public appearance. He's expecting the genius's brain to be in the creature. And
it's a bad stand-up comedian.
You quickly find out that's not the genius's brain. Yeah.
Herman soon goes on the comedy club circuit, which makes him easy for Lily to find. In the office above the nightclub, Zoya gives Lester an ultimatum. He has 2 weeks to get her the castle. Lester runs into Lily on the steps. They're brother and sister. I did not remember that Lily had a brother werewolf.
I didn't remember that in the show. Yeah.
That explains where her son, the werewolf, DNA comes from.
Runs in
it's all in the family.
Yeah.
Well, Herman's into Lily too, so that works out well. She invites him over for a dinner at midnight tomorrow. Herman arrives, and the Count is not impressed. He and Igor decide to get rid of Herman, but Lily is all in on Herman at this point. They get tattoos of each other and sing karaoke. Before long, they're engaged. The Count pulls out a spell book and chooses a husband spell. He ends up conjuring up a dancing ape instead.
And I remember that being a thing in the show, wasn't
Bad
it? Where
magic.
he was really bad at casting magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the wedding in the cemetery, Lester tells Herman about the real estate deal, but Herman doesn't care about any of the finances. He just signs Lester's contract without even asking about it. Much to the Count's dismay, the marriage proceeds. The pair then go to Paris for their honeymoon, and there are mime and Frenchman jokes to spare. You can't go to France without making mime jokes, can you? They're like on every... I've never been to France, but I imagine they're on every corner.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You can't throw a baguette without hitting a mime.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well, they read about a monster haunting the sewers of Paris, so they have to go visit. They catch a little dragon down there, and they name him Spot.
See, it's an origin story. All this stuff from the show. You see where they started.
Back in Transylvania, Zoya sends the Count an eviction notice. Zoya is the Count's ex-wife, and she wants revenge. He goes to Paris to kill Herman in retaliation. The Count rages about the contract and the eviction to Lily and blames it all on Herman. Herman, though, he thinks he can make a killing in California, and they all need a fresh start, so it's time to leave Transylvania.
Yep, just leave it all behind.
Packing up the
Off
truck
to the
and moving to
States.
California.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like hillbillies.
Yeah.
Wrong story.
Wrong story.
Herman says the Count can come along, but he'll have to leave Igor behind. The Count mixes up a potion for Igor that turns him into a bat. They call a realtor to get a new house, and she likes their Halloween costumes and takes them to a house for sale. They drive through the Mockingbird Heights, a too-clean suburban neighborhood that's fully decorated with everyone in Halloween costume. Since it's Halloween, Lily has no idea that all the beautiful kids are just wearing ugly masks. They fall in love with the condemned mansion down the street, and the realtor is grateful to be rid of the eyesore. That old place? You can have it.
Yeah, glad to be rid of it.
Lost that sale. They have the house of their dreams, but they're flat broke. Herman decides to go out and get a job, so the trio go outside and introduce themselves to the neighbors at the Halloween party, and of course everyone is in costume.
And they just think this is how things
Best
are
place
normally.
ever.
This is how things are normally run in this neighborhood, in this town. Yeah,
They
they're
are
loving
happy.
It. They're loving it.
Well, the Munster family wins the prize for best costume, and the men who run the local mortuary hire Herman on the spot to carry their bigger clients. You think they have bigger clients? Yeah,
probably.
They don't have a lot of return business. The next morning, they're horrified to discover normal suburban life now that Halloween is over. It hits Herman that all the people in his neighbors are actual normal humans. How terrifying. "We can't live with people who look like that," Lily exclaims. But they decide it's what's inside a person that counts. Lester comes to the door and hands him a bunch of money. He made a killing in Vegas with his share of the castle proceeds. Happy ending for everyone.
And on to the show.
Well, they had kids in the show. They don't have kids here.
Well, I mean, that's what comes next. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the origin story we didn't know we needed. The visuals are great, with silly animated backdrops when appropriate. The jokes are just stupid dad jokes for the most part, which is exactly what you'd expect from Herman. There are lots of pop references, but they're mostly referencing stuff from the 60s. So I don't know how many young people are even going to understand those. There was even a Car 54 reference.
Yeah, a lot of references.
Do you recognize Car 54, Kevin, in your mid-50s?
I actually did, yes.
You did, okay.
Yeah, because I've seen enough of it in reruns.
Fred Gwynn and Al Lewis were in a comedy cop show before the Munsters, so they'd worked together already.
Car 54, where are you?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I bet 90% of people under the age of us is not going to get that one.
Yeah.
Still, I don't think this was aimed at young viewers. Except the humor is really, really juvenile, as if it were aimed at kids. I think the film is kind of confused itself.
A little bit, yeah.
It was like it was taking the 60s and just making a brand new show from the 60s using 60s humor aimed at the kids from the 60s.
But they're adults now. Yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah. But anyway, Grandpa Munster is just the Count here, since he's not a grandpa yet, and technically he never was a Munster. Most of the actors who also have a dual role as someone who appears on their TV shows. The morning show, or the newscaster, or some kind of an announcer. And the actors who played Marilyn and Eddie Munster both had little voice cameos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did not appear, but we could hear them. Before release, there were all the usual comments about Rob Zombie casting his wife in all his films. But Lily, I thought, was probably the best thing about this film.
Yeah, I think Sherry is a capable actress and always does a
She was fine.
job.
Well, this one's a little over the top and hammy, and they were all very good at that.
Yeah.
Daniel Roebuck as the Count was probably the best of the group. The weak point, I thought at least, Kevin disagrees, was Herman. For a character as iconic as Herman Munster, he didn't pull it off, in my opinion. What did you think?
Horror guy Kevin disagrees. I think he did a pretty good job of building the character from zero, because he woke up with basically no memory, still his comedic abilities and goofiness, and I thought he built it to the point where he's the dad of the family.
Okay.
I thought he did a nice job with it.
I think the whole stand-up comedian thing was what I didn't like. I mean, the original Herman Munster, he was just a goofy dad character.
Yeah.
And this guy, this Herman's trying to be funny.
I thought he moved toward it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's where he got at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we both watched all the original shows as a kid in the 70s, not when they were first run, and they were a lot of fun. This is pretty much exactly the same thing. It's not updated or rebooted, not really. It's exactly the same thing. All the characters here are set up for a possible sequel, so it's more of a reminder that these characters still exist than anything else. I liked it a lot, but it's probably not going to appeal to everyone.
Yeah, they could do a sequel.
Oh, yeah, they did. They could make a number of sequels.
Yeah, the kids are, haven't come yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, could have the birth of the kids and, various
So what's your
things.
thoughts there?
You
liked it?
A thumbs up, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. I have read some really horrible reviews. I think these people are just Rob Zombie haters.
Some people are, yeah.
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 Well, I mean, after what he did to Halloween, I mean, there's some justification there. But he has made a lot of good movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then we got an indie. I don't know if it's an indie film. It's not a major studio film.
But it was really good.
When the Screaming Starts. Directed by Connor Baru, written by him and also Ed Hartland. Stars Catherine Bennett Fox, Lee Nicholas Harris, and Yasin Atur. Hour and 28 minutes. If you haven't seen this one, there's a trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free, this is a horror comedy about a wannabe serial killer who starts his own Manson-like murder family and the filmmaker who wants to document the whole thing. Imagine Charles Manson had a documentary crew with him when he was getting started. Things do not go well. This is a really excellent, and everyone should see it, says Kevin.
Yes, I loved this one.
All right, well, tell us what really happens.
Well, we get news reports about a dinner party massacre. 14 people are dead. Credits roll. Norman is a true crime documentary filmmaker who has found his next story. He believes that Aidan Mendel is going to be the next serial killer and wants to document that. Aidan is at least an aspiring serial killer. He accidentally shoots a cat and acts surprised when the gun goes off.
Yeah, he does things like practicing drawing a knife and practicing sneaking up on people. He's a lot of practice. He's really into practicing.
Yeah, he is, yeah. Well, he works at the local movie theater and imagines killing the patrons until he gets caught mock stabbing somebody and gets fired. Claire is Aidan's girlfriend, and she's murder-obsessed as well, even more so. She likes to take photos of dead bodies. Aidan explains how wardrobe is important, since you don't want people thinking you're a terrorist when you're really a serial killer.
That's true.
That's true. Well, Aidan decides to kill Luke first. He was the vocalist in his band. And when he left, the band broke up. And they have a montage of music videos of their band, and yeah, it's just awful. Well, Claire tells him, don't screw this up. If you kill someone, we can have sex.
There's a motivation.
Luke wonders what all the cameras are for. It's the documentary crew here to watch him get murdered. And it goes badly when Luke chokes out Aidan and gets away. So now Aidan and Claire decide to start a cult instead. So they interview prospective members, starting with Mickey, who's ruled out because he's an orphan, and Claire says orphans can't be trusted.
Okay.
Yeah. Victoria and Veronica, creepy twins, come in, followed by a whole string of weirdos who want to join the cult just for something to do. Amy is a rich, insane girl who killed her own pony. And it's not that she dislikes ponies. She dislikes cliches. And getting a pony was a cliche, so she had to do away with it.
Okay.
Yeah. One guy just wants yoga lessons and has the wrong address, but he doesn't speak English, and they don't know why he's really there. And they do finally settle on a small group of future cultists. And next up is boot camp and weapons training. The yoga guy decides that something isn't quite right with this group. They get a headquarters to live together and plan murders together. The plan is to find a family, do a home invasion, and kill them all, just like the Manson family, but without racism. Aidan insists they're all-inclusive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Think that's far enough on this one? I don't
think
want to
so.
spoil it. I don't think too many people have seen this one.
We don't want to spoil it, yeah. But it's in the mockumentary format where they'll follow along the story, and then they'll break off for one-on-one interviews and things like that. Clips from the past, and yeah, I really dug this one. Yeah.
Well, it's a horror comedy, so none of this is serious horror, but there is some serious dark humor. It's more about the build-up and the situations than it is about the plot itself, but it gets to the murders eventually. I think it's probably more than halfway through before anybody dies. Mm-hmm. The plot unfolds naturally, considering the silly premise, and everything does make sense. Turns out, Aidan's about the only one in the film who doesn't kill anyone.
Mm-hmm.
The jokes are good, the acting is good, the cinematography is good, and it's all very well paced. It's not exactly a laugh-in-the-minute comedy, but it does get the job done.
Lots of snickering.
Yeah.
I snickered many times.
We both liked this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we watched a short film.
Mukbang.
What?
Mukbang.
Bang, boom. Mukbang.
Mukbang from 2022.
Okay.
Which was directed by and written by Alex Magana. Stars Becky Bush and Juliet Cecil. Runtime is 5 minutes, 25 seconds, and it's available on YouTube.
5 minutes? I like the short ones.
Mm-hmm.
What happens?
Well, Carly is doing a cooking show. And it's one of those eating challenge cooking shows.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to do the Korean fire noodle challenge. She tells the camera. And there's a huge bowl of noodles in front of her. 20 packages of Korean fire noodle ramen. The current record is 15 packs. So she starts a timer and starts chowing down. Except later she gets a text, "I know you cheated." Well, she did in fact cheat. But how would anyone know that? Now we get to see her eat all those noodles for real.
It does not go well.
Because they're threatening to expose her as a fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the videos on YouTube where the guy like snorts hot chilies and eats a pound of, peppers and
Yeah. Those
then
are kind of
scream
entertaining.
And cry and sweat.
Yeah.
Well, some people take their TikTok pretty seriously, maybe too seriously. A mukbang, if you were not aware of it, is also known as an eating show. It's an online audiovisual broadcast in which a host consumes various quantities of food while interacting with the audience. So, yeah.
You've had those noodles, haven't you?
I have. I've had the same noodles.
Are they hot?
Oh, yeah. They'll halfway kill you the first time you try them. But then you get a tolerance pretty fast. I know by my third or fourth pack, not all at once.
Not all in one sitting.
A pack here and a pack there. You get pretty used to them. After a while, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Still, 20 packs is a lot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I bet I could do it.
I bet you couldn't.
You know who else is hungry?
Martin. He was hungry for blood in 1977.
Yeah. Martin is a.k.a. Martin the Blood Lover. Actually, I've never heard it called that, but that's what it says
Martin
on the movie poster.
Okay.
Directed and written by George Romero, the Night of the Living Dead guy. Stars John Amples, Lincoln Mazel, Christine Forrest, and Tom Savini. And don't watch this for Tom Savini. He's got a really minor role.
Very small.
Hour and 34 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. This is the story of Martin the Vampire. Or is he just an unbalanced young man? We're left wondering. It's pretty slow moving, but still manages to be interesting and watchable. Is he or isn't he?
Is he or
Big
isn't
question.
he? Yeah, it is kind of interesting how they do that.
Spoil it for us.
Well, a bunch of people board an overnight train. Martin is there. He turns out the light, making his way to the restroom. Opens up a package and pulls out a syringe. And he fills it with something, then picks the lock on a sleeper car's door. He fantasizes about the woman inside. But when he goes in, she's in the bathroom putting on a face mask. The night cream, big smoochy white face. They argue. He explains that he doesn't want to hurt her with the needle. "I'm always very careful with the needles," he soothes. He puts her to sleep, gets her undressed, and then he slices her wrist open and gets her blood all over the place as he drinks it. And then he spreads around razor blades and drugs to make it look like a suicide. He cleans himself up, goes back to his own compartment as credits roll.
Well, first of all, he's a really sloppy eater.
He is.
And second of all, if vampires were real, do you think they'd grow pop fangs out of their teeth, really?
He doesn't.
He doesn't do that, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, he cuts them with something and sucks their blood out with his lips and his mouth, just like a normal person would do.
Who had to have blood.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder.
Yeah, at this point, is he a loony?
Just a different kind of
vampire, yeah.
Well, when he gets to Pittsburgh, Martin meets up with Kuda, who says they need to make a different train. He's an old guy. They eventually arrive at a big old house in an older neighborhood. Kuda calls him Nosferatu and says he will destroy him. But first he shows Martin his room. So it's kind of a love-hate going on here. It's weird. There's a lot of weirdness in this.
No, this is weird.
Yeah. You may come and go, but do not take people from the city, orders Kuda. And he also forbids Martin from speaking to his granddaughter. Well, Martin explains that he's not a Nosferatu. He's Cuda's cousin, Martin. Martin picks up some garlic, even takes a bite, and handles the cross, and it doesn't even bother him. It isn't magic. Even I know that, he says. So he's kind of debunking the charms and things that Cuda has against vampires. Well, Cuda owns a small shop, and Martin goes to work for him. Martin does meet Christina, Cuda's forbidden granddaughter. Martin eats strangely at the dinner table, using a little guillotine to cut his celery, and he asks Christina to put her finger in there. It's just a magic trick. And Martin shows the trick and explains how it works and says, see, there's no real magic. Well, Arthur comes in, and he's looking for work. He's Christina's boyfriend. And Martin delivers groceries for Cuda. One woman, Mrs. Santini, offers to give Martin a ride back to town. They stop for gas, and she talks about her husband. Cuda tells Christina about Martin being a vampire, and she thinks the old guy's crazy.
Which he probably is.
But is
Maybe he might be right, but he is definitely crazy.
Well, he could be right and crazy, but he's probably crazy either way, yeah. She thinks Martin was just raised to believe it, and they drilled it into him, and so he believes that he is. Cuda says Martin was born in 1892, and then he explains the family lineage. Martin is glad that she doesn't believe in magic, but he does claim to be 84 years old, just nonchalantly while he's doing dishes. Oh, yeah, but I am 84. And
looks about 18.
What? Yeah. Well, Martin scopes out his next victim, a housewife in the suburbs. As he gets to her house, he has flashbacks of an early kill. Well, he bursts in on the woman, expecting her to be alone, but she's naked with her secret boyfriend, which is actually kind of hilarious, this scene. Yeah. Awkward. Who is that? They both ask. Well, Martin injects the man, but the woman won't call 911 because he's not supposed to be there.
And this was funny.
Yes.
She's cheating with a man, he gets stabbed, and she's like, I'm not calling 911.
No.
People will know about us.
Yeah, Well, Martin locks the man outside and then corners the woman. When the guy gets back inside, Martin jabs him again. And finally, both of them pass out from the drugs that he's injected. Martin takes the man out into the woods and drinks his blood. The flashbacks show how an angry mob with torches once came after Martin, after one of his kills in the past. Well, he then goes back inside, cleans up the mess, and leaves the woman alone. Cuda takes Martin to church on Sunday, and it may be the scuzziest Catholic church you've ever seen.
That's really nasty. It's
It's
church in a sewer almost.
Yeah, like it was still under construction. Yeah, it was bad, yeah. Well, while doing some handyman stuff for Mrs. Santorini, she decides to seduce him, and it doesn't work, and Martin runs off. Cuda asks Father Howard whether he believes in demons. Father Howard talks about the movie The Exorcist and laughs about it. Martin flashes back to when an exorcism had been performed on him in the past.
It's not Martin's first game.
Yeah. Well, Cuda brings in Father Zolmas, a different old priest, one who actually knows how to do an exorcism, unenthusiastically in English. Martin just sits there and listens, and then he just gets up and runs away. Cuda walks through the fog and spots Martin in a Dracula cape and fangs. And Martin just laughs at the terrified old man until Cuda hits him with his cane. Martin spits out the fake teeth and tells him it's just a costume. Well, he delivers to Mrs. Santorini, and this time they do go ahead with the sex. They do. She cries afterwards. And Martin wonders if it's something he did. I think she's just feeling guilty about it.
Yeah. She is Mrs. Santorini, after all.
Yeah. Cuda tells Arthur about Martin and warns him about what runs in their family line. She hears about what Cuda told him and moves out. She and Arthur are moving away, but not to worry, they won't have children. She's only using him to get out.
Cuda's afraid they're going to pass on the family history.
Yeah, she's not going to have any kids with Arthur anyway. Well, Mrs. Santorini starts seeing Martin regularly. This seems to make killing women and drinking their blood more difficult. It's difficult to pick a woman victim because she's busy now. Job and shacking up with Mrs. Santorini. So, well, eventually he knocks out a couple of hobos and drains them. He then breaks into a store to change clothes, and the police show up before he's done. He runs for it, but the police pursue. He runs into the middle of a drug deal. I mean, it's just weird and awkward. All kinds of things that are weird and awkward.
It's a very poorly planned out evening for him.
Yeah. He just runs into the middle of this drug deal, and the dealers are shooting at the cops, and the cops are shooting back, and before long, Martin's the last one standing. Well, he goes to the missus' house, and he finds that she's committed suicide, and he thinks maybe that's okay. Cuda thinks Martin killed her, even though he didn't. Well, Cuda stakes Martin through the heart, killing him.
I told you not to take anyone from town.
Which would kill you if you were a human or a vampire.
Yeah, doesn't really matter.
So you still don't know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, whatever Martin uses to inject his victims with is really inefficient. It just takes forever to knock them out.
Oh, yeah, that did. Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be something better he could be using. Well, like most Romero films from the 70s, this looks really grainy and low budget. The real question throughout is whether or not Martin is really an 84-year-old vampire or just a messed-up teenager/serial killer. We never doubt that he's killing people. We see that.
Mm-hmm.
And we never really find out. As Martin explains repeatedly, the magic isn't real. But there's enough weirdness here to make you wonder if he could really be one. It's pretty slow-moving and very dated, but George Romero always claimed that this was his favorite film. Of all the films he made, this was his favorite.
Okay.
It's definitely an interesting take on vampires, but it's also right on the edge of being boring.
It is a slow one.
Yeah. Don't be looking for supernatural monsters, because they are not here.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
Poltergeist from 2015. I can't wait till you rip on this one. Directed by Gil Keenan. Written by David Lindsay Abair, Steven Spielberg, and Michael Grass. Stars Sam Rockwell, Rosemary DeWitt, and Kennedy Clements. Runtime is 1 hour and 33 minutes, and there's a trailer on YouTube.
What happened spoiler-free?
Well, it's an unnecessary and unworthy remake of one of the most classic horror films of the 80s. Within the first 5 minutes, we already disliked the entire family. And that's probably, that never really changes throughout the film. And if you took the basic characters and stories from the original and substituted subpar crap for all of them, that's what this movie is and what remains. Save your time and go watch the original again, or at least start with the original.
That's pretty harsh even for you.
Don't see this first. You made me rate it. You made me do that.
Well, if you want to hear,
I don't disagree entirely. I'm not going to be as harsh as you probably, but
okay. Well, last week we talked about the Poltergeist from 1990?
1980.
80. I don't know. Whenever it was. The original.
80s. 80. When is the original? Okay, anyway.
A while back.
Yes,
anyway,
while ago.
We both said that was one of our favorite horror movies when they came out, and it's still really, really good. And for some reason...
1982.
All right. You'd think we'd remember that if we liked it so much, huh?
Well, early 80s. I remembered that.
And then they made this travesty.
Yeah, just like I said, unnecessary and unworthy. Yeah.
And I think that's really it. It's not only is it unnecessary, it doesn't improve anything.
It didn't.
It actually is subpar in every way.
Yeah.
This is just a step. It's like somebody wanted a tax break.
The family, you don't like them as well. The investigators, the trio that comes to help, you don't like them as well. And
the only thing good about this is Jared Harris is in it, and I like him.
Yeah, but he
doesn't save it.
He doesn't save it, and he's no Zelda Rubinstein.
The Bowen family drive to their new house, and we see the 3 children, Kenda, Griffin, and Madison, are all annoying and stupid. They're in the back seat just being obnoxious, and they are.
Yeah.
Yep. The parents, Eric and Amy, seem to not care much what the children say or do, because nobody cares what children do. We already hope these people will all die, even before the credits. It didn't take long, did it?
Yeah, that was a fundamental thing about the first one. You liked these people,
yep.
And you were rooting for them.
Not these people.
You're not really rooting for them here.
Griffin immediately takes a dislike to the old tree outside the new house. We see that there are speakers in all the walls to listen to the music. the realtor walks through and they talk about the speakers in the walls so they could hear all the music. And
never use them again.
No, it never comes up again.
Yeah.
I was expecting they'd hear the little girl's voice through the speakers. Nope. It's just TV just like before. Eric is unemployed and morose about it. Even while they're talking to the realtor, little Madison is talking to someone up in the bedroom closet. The price is cheap, so they buy the house. It's not a new house. It's not Eric's company that built it. They're just random people moving into a random, pre-owned house.
Right.
Which, if you know the story from the original, that's not the way it works.
And that house didn't survive. It's not like,
Oh, it's not the same house.
It's not like they moved into the same house.
This is not a sequel.
Yeah,
no.
It's not. Yeah.
Later, Amy is doing laundry in the basement, so there can't be any bodies buried down there. Unless they were buried really deep. She loses her earring behind the washer and finds something yucky back there. Kendra watches Kerrigan Burke, a ghost chaser on TV. This movie takes place in a universe where, unlike the fake shows we have, he's the real deal. I think she thinks it's just a TV show, too.
She does?
Yeah, I think so.
I think in this world, everybody assumes it's real. And everybody knows
I think
real.
it's just a silly TV show. And I mean, he is real, but
okay,
nobody else would think that.
Okay.
Well, anyway, the lost people are my friends, says little Madison. Griffin is afraid of the skylight in his bedroom, and they're even more afraid of the creepy clown doll he finds inside the wall. One clown is creepy. He's got a whole bunch of them stuck inside his wall.
Lucky him.
And of course, the kid who's afraid to be alone, you're going to put him up in the attic with, bare exposed wood, a skylight, and a hole that lets squirrels in.
That's the worst place to put a
Why not put the older girl up there? Well, that night, Griffin goes downstairs to find Madison talking to the TV, which is full of static. Then the TV is full of hands that look like they want out. They're here, whispers Madison. Same line, different delivery.
Same line, different delivery.
The next morning,
not as good. It's just everything is not as good.
Everything is just, yeah. The next morning, Griffin digs up a bone in the backyard. Amy wants to get Griffin therapy because there must be something wrong with this kid. He's afraid of everything. The next night, Amy and Eric go to a party and leave all the kids at home alone. It comes up during dinner that the development was built over a cemetery years and years ago. They moved the bodies, of course, but that was a long time ago. Why is this just now coming up? Well, back at the house, Kendra hears weird sounds through her iPhone. She follows it to the basement, where something seems to be trying to get up through the floor. She finds that it's the same black oozing stuff that her mother found earlier, only this puddle reaches up and grabs her. Upstairs, Griffin is attacked by the evil clown doll, and also the tree outside. Meanwhile, Madison's closet door opens up and starts sucking in the lights from the room. Then the toys, and then Madison herself. Eric and Amy come home, and they find Griffin screaming up in the tree, and Kendra is hysterical too. Maddie is gone. Soon they start hearing Maddie's voice on the TV. They call in Dr. Powell and her film crew to investigate, and the group asks questions and investigates the house to find tricks and scams. They think the family is faking it. Well, the whole group gathers around the TV to talk to Maddie, and when she calls, there are others with her, and they don't sound very nice. They see her shadow running around the house. It's not Maddie, it's just her shadow. And Eric throws a table into the closet, and it comes back through the living room ceiling. Dr. Powell wants to call in Kerrigan Burke. Kerrigan arrives, and everyone's a big fan of his TV show. He goes through the house, and we see the various weird things have escalated a bit. He knows the stuff about the cemetery, but he also doesn't think they really moved the bodies. They're still down there. The anger and frustration of the dead have combined to create a poltergeist. He says the dead want Maddie to lead them into the light. Everyone in the house gets a GPS tracker, and they get a drone ready, and a rope. Kerrigan talks about his various scars, just like they did in Jaws. One of them was apparently made by a ghost shark, no less.
We saw that movie.
Finally, they get everything set up, and they throw the rope into the closet, and it comes out in the living room. Then they fly a drone inside to find Madison. It flies along the rope into the closet portal, and we see what's inside. It's a CGI version of hell.
It's the Upside Down.
Yeah. They make contact with the little girl, but then they lose the drone. Griffin goes in alone for his sister. There's lots of screaming and drama, but he gets her, and the two children fall into the living room. Kerrigan says, "This house is clean," which is his show's tagline. Madison says the house isn't clean since the ghost stayed behind. They all get in the car to leave right then, but the ghost won't allow it. The entire car gets sucked into the house. Now, this was my one complaint with the original movie last week. After everything was done, they stayed another night.
Yeah, at least here they're trying to get away.
Immediately, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The closet upstairs has turned into a demonic black hole, sucking in everything. They watch the demonic monsters reach out of the closet for Madison, but they pull her out just in time. Kerrigan goes back inside. He says he's the only one who can lead the souls into the light. He jumps into the closet as the rest of the family climbs out a window. They all five of them pile into a little Mini Cooper as dead bodies start rising from the earth. The house explodes behind them as they drive away. The family then goes house hunting, and the realtor mentions the huge closet space. They're not impressed with the big tree out back either.
Nope, they nope right out of there.
All right, well, in the original, we spent a lot of time getting to know the family, and they were all fun, happy people, so it was a shock when bad things happened to them later. And we were rooting for them all the way. They were good people. When the going got rough, the parents stepped up and saved the kids. In this modern version, they're all morose and unlikable to begin with. He's unemployed. She's a writer who doesn't write. They're both grouchy. The kids are little assholes. We don't like any of them. So they kind of get what they deserve.
Yeah.
In this one, the parents watch the 10-year-old boy literally go to hell. Think about the upside down out of Stranger Things. To save their daughter and don't make a move to dive in after him or help. They're just worthless people. Jared Harris is cool. Of course, Jared Harris is always cool, even when he's wearing a stupid hat.
Jared Harris is cool.
Yeah. If you're going to remake this film as iconic and, perfect as the original Poltergeist was, then at least put a modern spin on it or introduce some new elements to make it stand out. This was basically a pointless remake with none of the Spielbergian charm of the original. This is soulless, worthless, cash-grabbing garbage of the worst kind. I'd give it 1 star, except for Jared Harris, who rates it 2 stars just for being there. I'm going to go worst movie of the year.
My goodness.
I'm going to go...
Harshed.
This movie was just offensive.
All out harshed.
If the director of this movie were here, I would slap him.
Wow.
Twice. And spit on his shoes.
Wow. Okay.
Poltergeist. Phew.
Okay. I don't feel that strongly about it. But it's down there. Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was worthy. No.
All right, well, that's it for this week. Next week, we've got a couple more movies for you. We've got Hocus Pocus 2. That sounds scary.
No, it's not scary.
It's not scary?
Not at all.
Okay.
Very, very Disneyfied.
We've got a new film called Dead Bride, which is kind of cool.
That was kind of scary.
That was kind of good.
Creepy and unsettling.
And Margot. It's not a haunted house exactly.
Which we have not seen yet.
Sort of a demon-possessed echo device or something like that. And a couple of things that we haven't decided on yet. So we got surprises for everybody next week.
Uh-huh.
Again, if you'd like a copy of that Margot movie, email at horrorguys.com. Say, I would like a movie, please. And we'll send you if you're the first 5 people. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.